On a quiet afternoon in the small town of Willow Creek, an ordinary walk home turned into a dramatic showdown between a group of reckless bikers and an unlikely hero, a retired canine German shepherd named Max. What began as an intimidating encounter soon revealed the unwavering loyalty and formidable skills of a trained police dog, showing that heroes come in all shapes and sizes. On a balmy evening, as the sun began its lazy descent beyond the horizon, Lily Parker was making her way down the cracked sidewalk. She was small for her age, only 8, but her bright eyes and enthusiastic grin seemed to fill any space she walked into. She clutched a crinkly brown paper bag stuffed with a few groceries, milk, bread, a jar of jam, and some fresh fruit. Her mother had sent her to the nearby corner store for these essentials, believing it safe enough since Willow Creek was ordinarily serene. But Lily was no ordinary child in terms of courage or responsibility. She took her tasks seriously, especially when it came to proving her independence. Her steps were light, and she skipped every few strides, humming a cheerful tune she had heard on the radio earlier that afternoon. The shadows of the old oak trees played on the sidewalk, as though dancing in time with her melody. Walking beside her, keeping steady pace, was Max, her loyal German shepherd and constant protector. His golden brown coat gleamed in the sunset, and his dark eyes scanned the surroundings alertly. Anyone who glanced at Max would immediately notice his poise. He held himself in a way that suggested training and authority. He was more than just a family dog. He was a retired K9, once a prized member of the police force. Lily's father, Officer Parker, had adopted Max after the dog sustained an injury during a high-stakes operation. Though the injury had forced an early retirement, it hadn't quelled Max's instincts or dulled his desire to protect. Now fully recovered, he poured all his loyalty into Lily, treating her like his sole responsibility. Every time Lily paused to adjust the groceries in her arms, Max halted too, as if tethered by an invisible bond. If Lily glanced up at the sky, so did he, watchful. If Lily looked left, he turned his muzzle in that direction, scanning for threats. She often teased that he was more bodyguard than dog, but in truth, she loved every bit of his protectiveness. While Lily's imagination drifted to simpler thoughts, what her mother might cook for dinner, or how she planned to paint a picture of the sunset the next day, danger was rolling into Willow Creek from the far side of town. A group of bikers, who called themselves the Black Reapers, thundered along the empty streets, their roaring engines breaking the stillness of dusk. They wore patched leather jackets, adorned with skeletal emblems and menacing designs, the kind that made anyone do a double take before hastening away. The Black Reapers had been a troubling presence for a few weeks now. Mostly, they engaged in petty theft, harassing shop owners, or intimidating teenagers for fun. But their behavior was escalating. Tempers among their ranks were rumored to be running hot after a dispute with a local mechanic. They'd arrived in Willow Creek after being driven out of a neighboring county for repeated disturbances, and they saw the small town as ripe for exploitation. At the head of the group rode a man known only as Scarface. He earned the name from a jagged scar slicing down his right cheek, a souvenir from a long-ago bar fight. He wore his hair short, and he had a perpetual sneer etched across his features, as if he derived a twisted pleasure from other people's fear. Riding alongside him was a hulking figure known as Snake Tattoo, for the grotesque serpent coiling around his neck. As they sped along the main road, Scarface cut the engine momentarily, hearing a squeal of laughter. His narrowed eyes fell upon Lily Parker, the small child with a grocery bag and a German shepherd by her side. His sneer deepened. Easy prey, he thought. After all, what real threat could a little girl and her dog pose? Nearing the bend that would lead Lily back toward home, the street narrowed beside a row of weathered brick buildings. Nightfall was growing bolder, and the glow of street lamps flickered on. It was in this semi-secluded stretch that the Black Reapers found their moment. Their motorcycles slowed from roars to low snarls, forming a semicircle around Lily like predatory beasts. Lily's first reaction was confusion. She had never seen so many loud motorcycles up close. Max, however, reacted immediately, shifting from calm companionship to heightened vigilance. His ears perked, his back arched slightly, and a deep, territorial growl rose from his throat. The unstoppable engine of loyalty in Max was already revving up, even before Lily understood they were in danger. The bikers halted, engines still rumbling. Lily tightened her grip on the grocery bag, her heart drumming a frantic beat. She managed a polite, if shaky, greeting. Excuse me, I need to get home." Scarface dismounted his bike. He was a tall man with a wiry build that seemed coiled and ready to strike. He looked Lily up and down in a manner that made her blood run cold. A smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth as he pulled off his gloves. "Aren't you a bit young to be out alone?" he asked, his voice dripping with condescension. "I'm old enough," Lily whispered, though her throat felt dry. Max inched forward, placing himself slightly ahead of her, his intense brown eyes locked on Scarface. "Now that's not very polite," Snake Tattoo commented, stepping off his own bike. The snake inked around his neck seemed to writhe with his movements. He leered at Lily. "How about you come with us, little girl? We'll show you a real ride." A chilling laugh rippled among the other bikers. One of them, sporting grimy fingers and a crude design scrawled across his jacket, muttered something about how easy it would be to snatch up a kid. Max let out a louder growl, baring his teeth. "Oh ho, look at that, she's got a guard dog," Scarface teased, loud enough for all to hear. "You think that mutt's gonna save you?" Lily felt her heart skip. She mustered every ounce of courage she had, stepping back carefully so she wouldn't lose her balance. "He's not just any dog," she warned. "Leave us alone." What the bikers didn't realize was that Max's training far exceeded mere obedience or an average guard dog's instincts. In his prime, he had been one of the most formidable canines on the force, a canine that took down drug dealers, found missing children, and once cornered a notorious gang member who tried to flee on foot. Though forced into retirement, Max's mind was still sharp, his instincts razor-edged, and his sense of duty unwavering. The bikers' mocking quickly turned to intimidation, as one of them decided to demonstrate their power. He reached out, intending to shove Lily, or worse, snatch her. That's when Max sprang. The transformation was lightning fast, from a protective stance into a fury of trained precision. He launched at the biker's outstretched arm with lethal accuracy, fangs sinking just deeply enough to incapacitate, but not to kill, exactly as he'd been taught. The biker howled in agony, stumbling backward in shock. "What the?" the man yelled, yanking his arm free. Blood trickled from the fresh punctures. Max dropped back onto all fours, growling deeply, ready to strike again if necessary. Instantly, the circle of bikers broke into chaos. Some began cursing. Others reached for chains or knives. Snake Tattoo glared, eyes blazing with fury. "He bit Joe," he shouted, referencing the wounded biker. That mutt's gonna pay. Lily was frozen, groceries clutched in one trembling hand while her free hand lay on Max's back, as though she might steady him or herself. She could hardly believe how quickly Max moved. Terror churned in her stomach, but a small thread of hope glimmered. Maybe, just maybe, Max could protect her until help arrived. In that moment, a memory flashed in Max's mind. A recollection of training sessions at the police academy. He'd been taught to neutralize threats swiftly, to minimize harm to civilians. He remembered the voice of his handler. Your job is to protect and serve. You're the first line of defense. Never hesitate when innocent lives are in danger. Max didn't hesitate. When Snake Tattoo lunged forward with a length of chain, Max rushed to meet him, leaping high enough to slam into the biker's chest. The sheer force of the German Shepherd's impact knocked the man flat onto the asphalt, chain rattling out of his grip. A few of the gang members stepped back, fear flickering across their faces. "That's no ordinary dog," one murmured, fear edging his voice. "He's some kind of K9. Scarface, though momentarily startled, refused to show fear. Instead, he yanked a knife from inside his jacket. The blade glinted ominously in the weak streetlight. "I'm not scared of any mutt," he snarled. "Stand back, or I'll gut the beast." At these words, Lily felt her knees go weak. She wasn't well versed in the logic of criminals, but she knew enough to understand they were serious. "Max, be careful," she whispered, voice shaky, tears pricking the corners of her eyes. She could already see the picture. A big, frightening man with a knife, and her beloved dog, bravely refusing to surrender. Yet Max was a K9 to the core. His intense focus zeroed in on the weapon Scarface brandished. He recognized the threat posture, the tension in the man's shoulders, the shift in weight that preceded an attack. This scenario was what he'd been trained for. Scarface lunged. Lily's scream caught in her throat, not fully escaping. Instead, her world slowed down. She watched the arc of the blade, saw the grim determination on Scarface's face, felt her own heart thunder in her chest. At that precise instant, Max sprang up on powerful hind legs, teeth flashing, jaws clamping around Scarface's wrist with surgical precision. The momentum forced Scarface to drop the knife, metal clattering onto the concrete. Scarface hissed in pain, desperately trying to shake the dog off. For a beat, everything was a struggle of movement and sound. Scarface's curses and ragged yells mingling with Max's guttural growls. The rest of the Black Reapers looked on, some unsure whether to interfere, others too stunned to do more than reel back. With a quick, learned maneuver, Max twisted, throwing Scarface off balance. He fell hard to the pavement, pinned under the dog's weight. Scarface's breath rushed out in a pained wheeze. By then, a bystander or neighbor must have realized something was very wrong in the darkening street. A call to the police had been made, and in Willow Creek, where officers were never too far away, the sound of sirens soon cut through the air like a clarion of hope. Red and blue lights flickered against the old brick buildings, turning the scene into a kaleidoscope of stark color. "Cops!" one of the gang members shouted. "We gotta go." Snapped out of their bravado by the threat of arrest, the bikers scrambled for their motorcycles. Snake Tattoo helped Scarface free himself from Max's hold. The dog released Scarface's wrist only when he felt Lily's hand tug at his collar, some remnant of training that recognized an authoritative pull from a friendly source. Scarface managed to stagger upright, clamping his other hand around his bleeding wrist. He cursed under his breath, but the feral look in his eyes was replaced by panic. Tires screeched as the gang members tried to speed off. However, the police cruisers were too quick. Officers poured out, guns drawn. The fight, it seemed, was suddenly over. At the forefront of the responding officers was none other than Officer Parker, Lily's father. He was a tall man, with a calm but steely gaze, the type of officer who believed in policing with empathy, but never tolerated injustice. Spotting Lily standing in the middle of the street, groceries spilled around her, and Max bristling at her side, he felt his heart seize in terror before relief washed over him. "Lily," he called, voice resonating with both concern and authority. He left the other officers to detain the bikers and rushed to his daughter, dropping to one knee. Lily, no longer able to keep it together, let her tears fall. She threw her arms around her father's neck. "Dad, they tried to—" Her small frame shuddered. Officer Parker gathered her close. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here. You're safe now." Then he looked at Max, who stood close, panting from exertion. Parker stroked the dog's ears gently. "Good boy," he whispered, voice tight with gratitude and pride. "You did your duty." Despite the swirling chaos around them, officers barking orders at the bikers to lay face down, the wails of sirens, and the flicker of emergency lights, this moment was suspended in a calm bubble of relief for father, daughter, and dog. Max, though exhausted, still seemed ready to spring if another threat appeared, but the threat was ending. Scarface and his cohorts were soon in handcuffs, any remaining illusions of escape shattered by the swift police response. Once the bikers were restrained, uniformed officers took statements from Lily, recounted the story of Max's heroics, and bagged the scattered groceries. One of them, an older police sergeant who had known Max in his K-9 days, whistled in amazement. "That dog just incapacitated 3 gang members by himself," he said, shaking his head. "I'd say retirement hasn't slowed him down one bit." Officer Parker managed a smile, though worry for Lily still etched lines across his face. "He's not just a dog," he replied, glancing at Lily with deep gratitude. "He's family." Around them, curious onlookers began to gather. Neighbors who had heard the noise, passers-by who had spotted the swirling lights. Word of the incident spread like wildfire through the small town. By the time the police station had processed the Black Reapers, half of Willow Creek already knew about the gang's attempted assault on a young girl and the heroic German shepherd who had single-handedly foiled their plans. That night, back at the Parker home, Lily found it hard to sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw images of Scarface towering over her, the snarling engine of a motorcycle, the flash of a blade. She felt Max's protective warmth at her feet on her bed, and that gave her some comfort. Usually, her parents didn't let Max onto the furniture, but tonight was an exception. She kept replaying the moment Max bit into the biker's arm, the adrenaline surge that had coursed through her small body. She'd always known Max was special. After all, he'd been a police dog, but she'd never seen him in action like that. It was both terrifying and awe-inspiring to witness. Her father sat on the edge of her bed, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry you had to go through that, Lily," he said quietly. "I never wanted you to see that side of the world, at least not so soon." Lily's voice was soft. "Max saved me. If he wasn't there—" She couldn't bring herself to finish the sentence. Officer Parker bowed his head. "I know. He's a hero tonight, but he's been a hero long before this. And you were brave too, Lily. You stood your ground until help arrived." Lily blinked tears from her eyes. "I was so scared, Dad." They were big and loud, and I didn't know if anyone would come." He nodded, swallowing a pang of guilt. "You did everything right. You stuck with Max, you didn't run blindly, and you kept your wits about you. That's real courage. Being brave doesn't mean you're never scared. It means you stand firm even when you are." At that, Lily reached down and ruffled Max's fur. The dog's ears perked up, and he licked her hand, as if saying, "I'm here. I'll always protect you." News of the incident spread rapidly through Willow Creek. By the next morning, local radio stations were abuzz with details. "Young girl saved by retired K9," read one headline. Another local blogger wrote, "German Shepherd hero foils bike gang." Even the local sheriff issued a press statement praising Max's bravery and Lily's composure under threat. Neighbors dropped by the Parker home with small tokens of gratitude for Max: dog treats, new chew toys, even a big bag of premium dog food. They also brought Lily sweets and comforting words, trying to chase away the lingering fear from her eyes. Though the kindness was overwhelming, Lily couldn't help feeling a little uneasy. It was a lot of attention. She preferred her normal, quiet life, playing games in her backyard or painting pictures of sunsets at her desk. Still, she realized how lucky she was. Willow Creek was a community that cared for each other. In places where people stuck together, heroes could be found in the most unexpected corners, whether it was a quiet father who doubled as a police officer or a noble dog who once wore a K9 badge. Amid the hustle and bustle of well-wishers, Lily found herself curious about Max's history. She had heard fragments of stories from her father about how Max had been part of a specialized unit for sniffing out narcotics and tracking suspects, but she wanted to know more, to understand the dog who had risked his life to keep her safe. She asked Officer Parker, "Dad, what exactly did Max do before he got hurt? I mean, I know he was a K9, but was he always so brave?" Officer Parker smiled fondly. "Max was fearless from the start. I wasn't his first handler. I inherited him when he was about 4 years old. He had this keen sense of duty, always itching to be active. He could scale fences, sniff out hidden contraband, or track someone through dense woods. But more than his physical abilities, it was his loyalty that made him stand out. He'd never leave a partner behind." Lily's eyes glowed with awe. "But how did he get hurt?" A shadow crossed her father's face. "We were responding to a call about an armed suspect barricaded inside a house. Max went in first, like he was trained to, when the suspect tried to shoot. Luckily, the bullet only grazed Max's leg, but it tore a tendon. The vets managed to patch him up, but the department decided it was safer for him to retire. That's when we adopted him. And I'm so glad we did." He paused, placing a gentle hand on Lily's head. "I never thought he'd be called to action this way again. But he proved he still has that unwavering heart of a K9. Lily wrapped her arms around Max, burying her face in his fur. "Thank you," she whispered, feeling an overwhelming surge of love for the dog who had given her everything a friend could, and more. In the following days, legal proceedings began against the Black Reapers who had assaulted Lily. Scarface, Snake Tattoo, and their cohorts were brought before a judge. Charges ranged from attempted kidnapping to assault with a deadly weapon. Officer Parker was summoned to testify about his daughter's harrowing experience, and Lily herself gave a timid account of what happened in that dark alleyway. The judge listened gravely, taking note of the cruelty inflicted and the clear intention to harm. During the trial, One of the bikers tried to argue they had only been joking. The prosecuting attorney, however, swiftly dismantled that excuse, pointing out the presence of a weapon, the injuries inflicted, and the genuine terror Lily faced. The criminal's laughter had been no mere prank, but a malicious threat. Max's involvement also featured prominently in the hearing. Several eyewitnesses testified to seeing a courageous German shepherd defend a little girl from grown men, subduing them in a remarkable display of skill. More than one person noted that if not for Max, the outcome could have been far darker. As the evidence stacked up, the bikers' attempts at denial crumbled. Each was handed a sentence befitting their crimes, ensuring they'd spend a considerable span behind bars. And so the short but fierce reign of the Black Reapers in Willow Creek came to a decisive end. While Lily went back to school, trying to regain a sense of normalcy, the town of Willow Creek found ways to show appreciation for Max's heroism. The mayor, a kindly woman known for her community outreach, arranged a small ceremony outside the town hall. A modest stage was set up, bedecked with a few banners and bunting. The entire Parker family was invited, along with many locals who wished to express their gratitude. Among the throng of onlookers were the shopkeepers, who had often dealt with the bikers' intimidation, a group of neighborhood kids who played with Lily, and local reporters hoping to cover a feel-good story. Lily stood in a neat dress, clutching her mother's hand, her cheeks flushed pink under the watchful eyes of the town. Max sat dutifully by her side, tail swishing occasionally across the grass. When the mayor took the makeshift podium, her voice resonated with warmth and pride. "Willow Creek is more than just a town," she began. "It's a community. We look out for each other, we help our neighbors, and as we learned this past week, we celebrate true bravery wherever we find it." She turned to the Parker family. "Officer Parker, your daughter Lily displayed remarkable courage in the face of danger. And Max, your retired K9, showed us all that a heart committed to protecting others never truly retires." At that, a small cheer erupted. Lily's mother gently nudged her forward. Lily stepped up, feeling her nerves flutter, but also feeling safe with Max at her side. The mayor produced a commemorative plaque, inscribed in neat lettering with the words, "To Max, Willow Creek's hero, for outstanding bravery in protecting our community." Beneath that was the date and a short line of gratitude. Lily held back tears as she accepted the plaque on Max's behalf, patting his head. The crowd erupted in applause. Camera shutters clicked, capturing the moment. Max, used to crowds from his days in training demonstrations, remained calm, although he did tilt his head as if curious about all the fuss. Life settled back into a peaceful rhythm, albeit with a new sense of awareness. Lily still enjoyed her walks around town, but now townspeople would greet her warmly, sometimes stopping to say hello to Max with gratitude shining in their eyes. Some children her age would ask, "Is that the dog who saved you?" And Lily would nod proudly, telling them about his special training. Max, for his part, never seemed to crave the attention. Whether recognized as a hero or not, his mission remained unchanged: protect Lily, stay loyal to the Parker family, and live each day with the dignity of a guardian. With the Black Reapers gone, Willow Creek breathed a collective sigh of relief. New families moved in, local businesses thrived without harassment, and the single traffic light continued to blink through the night, watching over a place that had reclaimed its sense of security. Yet this story was not merely about an act of heroism. It was also a reminder of how easily darkness can slip into even the safest corners of our world. Danger doesn't always come with a blaring trumpet. Sometimes it's a sudden roar of engines and mocking laughter around a bend in the road. But in that same quiet corner, a loyal friend can stand tall, bravery pulsing through every muscle, fearless even in the face of overwhelming odds. For Lily, the experience was both terrifying and transformative. She learned a lesson that many adults take years to understand, that courage doesn't mean having no fear. It means acting to protect others despite that fear. She also learned how even the smallest people in a town can be thrust into big, life-changing events and come out stronger if they stand alongside the right kind of friend. In the weeks and months that followed, Lily found herself more attuned to gratitude for the simple act of going to the store without danger, for the presence of her father, mother, and the unwavering devotion of Max. She cherished every day, greeting the sunrise from her bedroom window with a renewed sense of joy, finding that ordinary things, like painting or reading a book, felt more precious because they were safe. And each evening, as she prepared for bed, she would glance at the plaque from the mayor's ceremony. It hung on the living room wall, right above Max's favorite resting spot. Sometimes Lily would read it out loud, just to remind herself how a humble dog could do extraordinary things. For outstanding bravery in protecting our community, she'd then lean down, stroke Max's ears, and whisper, "Thank you." Max would nudge her with his muzzle, unspoken understanding in his eyes. Officer Parker continued his duties in Willow Creek, ensuring that no other groups tried to fill the vacuum left by the ousted bikers. Occasionally, he'd watch Lily and Max in the yard, chasing a ball or practicing homemade obstacle courses for fun. Deep inside, he carried immense pride. Pride in Lily's resilience and Max's devotion. He felt a profound respect for the bond they shared, one that had been tested under the worst circumstances and proven unbreakable. Sometimes, Parker would be approached by new recruits at the station, wide-eyed officers eager to hear about the day a retired K-9 took down a gang single-handedly. He'd recount the story with humility, always underscoring Lily's role. "My daughter didn't run or panic. She trusted her best friend, and that made all the difference," he'd say. "And Max, well, you can't train loyalty like that. It comes from the dog's heart." Time moved on, as it does in all small towns. The seasons changed, summer into autumn, with the leaves in Willow Creek turning fiery shades of orange and red, then falling gracefully to carpet the streets. Winter came next, blanketing the landscape in snow. Lily celebrated her 9th birthday, then her 10th. Every year, Willow Creek grew a bit more, but it never lost its small-town charm. Max's presence in the Parker household remained a constant source of love and security. Though he grew older, his protective instincts never waned. He continued to accompany Lily on walks, greet her at the door when she came back from school, and curl up beside her whenever a thunderstorm rumbled through the sky. Neighbors who passed by always said, "Hello, Max," as though greeting a local celebrity. The children in Lily's school adored him. Sometimes, with special permission, Lily's teachers allowed Max to visit, and the students would pepper Lily with questions about the heroic dog. While many dogs live contented lives, never having to prove their bravery, Max's legacy was etched into Willow Creek's lore. The story was retold at community events, mentioned in local newsletters, and passed from parent to child. Over time, the tale became a symbol of hope and courage for the town. If you stand for what is right, if you remain loyal to those you love, even the worst threats can be overcome. One mild evening, several years after the Black Reaper's attempted assault, Lily found herself once more on the porch, watching the sun set over Willow Creek. She was older now, and in her lap lay a sketchbook. Inside it, pages were filled with drawings of sunsets, sketches of Max in various heroic poses, and small stories she had begun writing, tales of adventure and friendship inspired by the bond she shared with her dog. Max lay contently at her feet, his muzzle resting on his paws. He'd developed a slight grey around his muzzle, a dignified silver, a marker of age that hadn't diminished his spirit. Lily reached down and scratched behind his ears, earning a gentle thump of his tail against the porch floor. Her father stepped outside, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate, one for himself, one for Lily. He offered one to her, and she accepted it with a grateful smile. Taking a sip, she gazed out at the fiery sky, remembering the day that nearly changed her life forever. She recalled the roar of motorcycles, the gleam of cold eyes on that knife, and the rush of pure relief she felt when Max intervened. So much had happened since then, but the lesson remained a core part of who she was. "Dad," she said softly, "do you think Max will always remember what happened back then?" Officer Parker blew on his drink to cool it before answering. Dogs have incredible memories, especially about things that involve the people they love. He may not reflect on it like humans do, but he'll never forget protecting you. It's who he is. Lily nodded, satisfied. "I won't forget either," she murmured, leaning down to rest a hand on Max's flank. "He's more than a hero. He's my best friend." In the countless small acts of daily life, walking to the store, greeting friends, helping neighbors with chores, Lily carried herself differently after that incident. She stood a little taller, spoke with a gentle confidence. She understood that heroes aren't always caped figures in comic books or mighty warriors from fairy tales. Sometimes a hero is an aging German shepherd with a heart of gold, or an 8-year-old girl who refuses to give up when cornered by a gang of bikers. The moral of this story rang clearer than ever. True courage isn't about physical strength or bravado. It's about the will to safeguard those we love, despite the tremors of fear that might be coursing through our veins. It's about loyalty, an unwavering commitment that says, "I will be there for you, no matter what." If you found this story touching or inspiring, I encourage you to comment, like, and share it with your friends. Spread the message that courage and loyalty can be found in the most unexpected places. Let others know that even in our darkest moments, a devoted friend, whether on 2 legs or 4, can be the greatest hero of all. Thank you for watching.